The shot that shattered her world rang out at sunrise. Emily Carter stood over her father's body in the dusty plains of Montana, the blood pooling around his boots like spilled ink on the parched earth. He'd been gunned down in cold blood by Victor Kane, a ruthless cattle rustler who'd stolen their entire herd 500 head strong and vanished into the wild badlands beyond the border. It was 1882, and in this unforgiving corner of the American West, justice was as scarce as rain. Emily was 22, with fiery red hair that blazed under the sun and eyes sharp enough to spot a lie from a mile away. Her figure turned heads in town, but it was her unbreakable spirit that made men wary. The sheriff shrugged it off as outlaw business, and her brothers begged her to stay home and grieve like a proper lady. But Emily had never been one to bow to expectations. What happens when a woman grabs the reins of her own fate in a man's world? Would she find vengeance or lose herself along the way? She tracked down Harlan Buck Whitaker in a dingy saloon in Billings, where the air reeked of cheap whiskey and regret. He was 50, weathered like old leather, with a scarred face hidden behind a salt and pepper beard and a patch over one eye from a long-ago skirmish. Legends whispered he'd taken down 20 outlaws as a federal marshal, always shooting first and burying questions later. Emily slapped a pouch of gold coins on the poker table, interrupting his game with a crew of hard-eyed gamblers. "I need you to hunt Victor Kane," she said, her voice steady as a loaded rifle. Buck didn't glance up. "This ain't no tea party, miss. Run along." "I'm no miss," she snapped, drawing every eye in the room. "I'm a woman with gold and a murdered pa. Which grabs you more?" Now he looked, his good eye lingering on her determined face, the way her blouse clung in the heat, accentuating her form. The other players shifted uncomfortably, sensing a storm brewing. Victor had killed John Carter 4 days back, she explained, rustled their cattle, and fled into the rugged territories where lawmen fear to tread. The sheriff called it federal land, too risky. "Smart man," Buck grunted, downing his drink. "Those badlands chew up pretty things like youthful of bandits, wolves, and worse. Then you're just the guide I need." Her words held a challenge that sparked something in him, maybe admiration, maybe trouble. She flashed the revolver tucked in her belt, a gift from her pa who'd taught her to aim true before she could bake bread. The saloon fell silent. An armed woman in these parts was rarer than an honest politician. Buck saw echoes of his lost daughter in her fierce gaze Lily, taken by fever 5 years ago. Same unyielding fire. $200, he finally said. "Half now, half when Kane's swinging from a rope. And you follow my orders. 150, and we drag him back for trial. Dead's too easy." He grinned, teeth stained from tobacco. "Darlin', you might just make out alive." But as she counted the coins, neither noticed the figure slipping out the back, carrying word to Kane. By dawn, the outlaw would know hunters were on his trail. They crossed the Yellowstone River at first light, heading into the untamed wilderness of eastern Montana vast prairies, giving way to jagged canyons and pine-thick hills. Emily swapped her skirt for trousers that hugged her legs and a shirt that did little to conceal her shape. Buck tried to ignore it, but failed miserably. "Second thoughts?" he asked as the Badlands loomed like a predator's jaws. "I don't do second thoughts, Marshal." Their first camp was by a silver-threaded stream under a starlit sky. Emily watched Buck tend the horses with unexpected tenderness, his rough hands gentle on their hides. "You ever have kin?" she asked, poking the fire. "Wife and girl. Fever gotching bolfy." His tone was flat, but pain edged it like a knife. She scooted closer, the flames warming her skin. "Pa always said the toughest part of loss is filling the void left behind. Your pa knew his stuff. Taught you to handle yourself in this mess. Enough to know when a man's worth trusting." Her voice dropped, husky in the night air. Something stirred in Hema, pull he'd buried deep. She was half his age, fierce as a wildcat, and wanting her felt like courting disaster. "Better sleep," he muttered, turning away. But lying there, hearing her soft breaths. Buck knew she was burrowing into his soul like a thorn he couldn't pull. For days in, they stumbled on carnage. 3 ranch hands gutted and left for vultures near a watering hole. No scalps taken, but boot prints led away. Blackfeet, Emily whispered, fighting nausea. Nah, or someone framing him. These boys were shot point blank. Buck eyed the horizon. Kane's crew betting on it. We're being tailed. A shot cracked from the ridge, grazing Emily's hat. Buck shoved her down, his body shielding hers. For a heartbeat, they were fused her softness against his hardness, her pulse racing with his. He smelled her fear mixed with wildflowers, and it ignited a fire he couldn't douse. Cover, he hissed. They scrambled the boulders as bullets rained. Emily drew her pistol, hands rock steady. How many? 4 at least. She fired back, clipping one attacker who yelped and fell. In the chaos, Buck felt a bond snap into place. She wasn't just along for the ride. She was his equal, fighting like she'd been born in the saddle. They outran the ambush in a blinding dust storm, holing up in a shallow cave reeking of bat guano. Emily shivered, drenched, her clothes plastered to her curves. Buck built a fire, then draped his coat over her. You're freezing. I'm tough. But she pulled it close, inhaling his scent smoke. Sweat, man. They sat thigh to thigh, the storm howling outside. Tell me about your wife, she said softly. Anna. Met her at a barn dance in Kansas. Sweetest smile could light up the dark. His voice cracked. Did you love her? Married her, didn't I? That's duty. Love's different. She met his gaze. I've seen men leer at me. But you see me. The air thickened. Emily, this road's wrong. Is it? She leaned in, lips brushing his. He groaned, pulling her close. The kiss explode draw, desperate. His hands roamed, unbuttoning her shirt, revealing skin glowing in the firelight. She tugged at his belt, trembling but bold. God, you're beautiful, he whispered, lowering her to the blankets. As he trailed kisses down her neck, her moans filled the cave. But hooves echoed outside, snapping them apart. Damn it, Buck growled, dousing the fire. Get dressed. Voices drifted. Smoke here. Boss wants the woman alive for fun. Terror gripped Emily. Kane's men had found them. They fled through the back, hearts pounding from near ecstasy turned nightmare. The final trap sprang at a narrow canyon pass. Bullets flew. Buck's horse bucked, throwing him into the rocks. Emily took cover, returning fire as wood splintered. Surrender the gal, old-timer, a voice bellowed. Victor's got plans for her. Emily counted 7 foes. Plan. Hichi Inghaj. Buck grinned through blood, but they were pinned, ammo dwindling. When Buck took a slug to the arm, rage boiled in Emily. Victor Kane emerged then lean, snake-eyed, with a smirk that curdled blood. Emily Carter, you've been a thorn. You murder my pa, she roared. He drew first. Self-defense. Liar. Shot him like a dog. Kane laughed. World's harsh, sweetheart. Drop the gun, or my boys make you wish you were dead. Buck staggered up. Touch her and I'll gut you. In that split second, Kane's focus shifted. Emily fired center mass. Kane clutched his chest, eyes wide in shock, crumpling dead. Silence fell like a shroud. Emily stared at the corpse, expecting triumph. Instead, emptiness yawned. Killing hadn't mended her heart. It just stained her soul. Kane's gang fled, leaderless. Buck slumped, bleeding out. Emily hauled him onto her horse, arms wrapped tight, riding for a mining camp 2 days west. Doc patched him up in a makeshift clinic, Emily vigilant by his bed. When Buck woke, she was there, sunlight framing her like an angel. You didn't leave. Where to? Home's gone. He winced, sitting up. You could start fresh, Mary, kids, the works. She smiled, genuine and warm. Tried normal. Bores me. You. Bought a spread near Bozeman Good Land. Needs hands. Partners. He took her hand. More than that, if you'll have me. They built a life there, ranching under big skies. Loss had scarred them, but together they healed, forging something stronger than vengeance. Love, hard-won and true. What did you think of Emily's journey? Was her quest for justice worth the blood? Drop your thoughts in the comments, take a stand, share your view. Let's debate.